What is up, everybody? It is a beautiful August 25th Friday morning. I've taken off work today to run some errands. As you can see, we're on the Rebel 250. August 25th, I'll have you know, is my birthday, so happy birthday to me. Took off work, but still gonna be busy kind of doing some errands this morning. So I'm going currently on the way to the tag office to get a tag for the Rebel 250, and I've pretty much all but decided to fully keep it at this point. I really like riding it around. They're a hoot. No surprise to me, I've owned multiple of them and always thought they were fun. I did buy it to flip, so another bike in the garage is probably going to have to go, and that'll probably be the Z125, even though I bought it new and just got it the other day. Not really the other day, probably 2.5 months at this point, something like that. That bike's a lot of fun. I'd really like to keep it and not get rid of it, but I just don't really have the garage space, and there's no way that the DR650 is going anywhere until I can afford to replace it with the new V-Strom 800 or the Transap 750. We'll get into that discussion after I leave the tag office here in a minute. So yeah, there's no way the DR650 is leaving until I can replace it, and I'm just not ready for that yet. So at this current point in time, that leaves the Z125 to be put up on the chopping block. Like I said, it's kind of unfortunate because I do really enjoy that bike, but I can commute on the Z back and forth to work. The real problem with that is I don't even get, I get the same fuel economy I get on this Rebel 250, and sometimes worse. I've gotten as low as 69, and the worst I've gotten on the Rebel here has been 71. So I've actually gotten worse on the Z125 than on the Rebel 250, and when I commute on the Z125, I have to take an alternate route, which adds about 12 minutes. It would probably take 5 minutes longer to commute it on the same roads if I could ride the same roads without getting run over. That's the problem. Just literally people going 10 to 15 over the speed limit. So if I could take the same route, it would only take like 5 minutes longer. It wouldn't be a big deal. But the route I have to take is a lot more turns, it's more back roads, it's more fun to ride. But the end result of that is probably around 12, maybe even sometimes 15 minutes longer commute, depending on how many red lights I get stopped at getting out of town, and how many cars I get behind. So all that to say, the Z125 is probably what's going to get sold to make room for this Rebel 250 to stay for a little while. I don't know how long, but nothing tends to stay very long around my garage. There's a few things. KLR stayed for a long time. Victory Cross Country stayed for a long time. And the DRs, it stayed for a decent time so far, and still don't have plans to sell it just yet. Alright, so I'm pretty much here at the tag office, so we will reconvene this after this thing has plates. And we'll talk about the Suzuki V-Strom 800 versus Transap 750 dilemma, because I'm really not sure which way I'm leaning there, but I'm definitely leaning towards one of them, or maybe something else in that similar category. Alright, tag has been acquired. So, unfortunately, my next chore for the morning involves the truck, so got to go home and do a vehicle swap, pick up the truck. So of course you will not be coming along for any truck vlogs. I don't think anybody wants to see that. Alright, so getting back to the DR650's replacement dilemma. So The DR650 is not very good two-up. I figured it'd be about the same as the KLR 650, but it's not. There's less cockpit room, which is fine. With 2 young kids, my wife's not exactly going on day trips, you know, like long rides or anything. It's usually just short, run around town or something, so it's fine. However, as the kids start getting a little older, when you start leaving them with the grandparents for longer without, you know, feeling like we're dropping off a baby that, you know, needs complete attention, that might change. We might start, you know, putting some more miles under our belt when we go out for a ride, instead of just running to town to do something and then running back. So with all that in mind, I'll need something that is a little better two-up. And my wife actually loved the KLR 650 two-up. Like, she says it is the greatest bike to ride two-up, right behind my Victory Cross Country, which might as well have been like a Gold Wing, you know. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 on the passenger comfort and room and everything. So she puts KLR 650 right behind that. Me and her are fairly small, so, you know, for normal sized adults who are, you know, taller than 5'7" and more than 160 pounds, yeah, it's probably not very good two-up. But for me and her, it was fun two-up. Whew, play on that rear drum about as hard as it'll take. So anyway, I'm leaning either V-Strom 800 or Honda Transalp 750. Now, the Transalp's lighter. I don't think it's by a crazy amount, 30-40 pounds. It's been a couple weeks since I stared at the spec sheet, but 30-40 pounds lighter, maybe a few more, a few less. And then I do remember it has almost like exactly 10 more horsepower. I think the Suzuki was claiming 81 and Honda claims 91. So it's lighter and it has more power, but it has non-adjustable suspension with the exception of preload at the rear. And for two-up riding, the passenger seat portion looks kind of more sport bike in its orientation. It's angled down, like it's going to take the passenger and funnel them into the back of the driver. And not severely, but more so than the Suzuki. Now, I've had a Kawasaki Versys 650, and my wife hated riding on the back of that bike for that very reason. She felt like she was just constantly sliding into the back of me. But since it's not like a true sport bike, I'm not hunched over as the rider, and so therefore she can't just like bear hug me like, you know, two people ride on a sport bike would, because I'm sitting upright and it's pitching her forward as if she's on a crotch rocket. So she just hated it, and we only took one decently long trip on that bike. She was like, I'm not getting back on that thing ever again. It was awful. So that's one thing that makes me leery about the Transalp 750. Of course, I'd test ride both of them with my wife on there, but that are the cons that I see for the Transalp 750 compared to the V-Strom 800. The V-Strom 800 looks like it has a more comfortable seat for both rider and passenger. It looks like it doesn't pitch the passenger so far forward, and also the suspension is adjustable. Now, the cons for it are it is heavier by 30 or 40 pounds, and it has 10 pounds less horsepower. But adjustable suspension and a better seating position, I think. Both of them similar MPG numbers being touted, similar tank size, so similar ranges on both of them. I can't remember if the Honda comes with cruise control. I feel like it might not. I can't remember. I feel like the electronics package on the Suzuki is slightly better. More settings, and I did watch one review video where they said that off-road settings, so like off-road ABS and off-road traction control settings, that lets you, slip it a little bit, but will still save you. There's more of those to choose from and fine-tune, and I think on the Honda it was more like ABS on and off, and then maybe like just 3 main rider modes. I feel like the Suzuki had a slightly better electronics package and more to choose from. And I also feel like one reviewer said that if you set the Suzuki like stuff, like, hey, let me turn ABS off or traction control off and do all this stuff, then when you turn the bike off and back on, it stays in that setting, which is huge, because most, like 90-something% of bikes, I feel like, don't do that, or at least the reviews I've watched on them, everyone's like, yeah, every time you turn it off and back on, you gotta turn traction control and ABS back off because it defaults to on. So if that's true, then I feel like it's a very small thing to get excited about when you're spending 10 grand on a motorcycle, but it's like, it seems like they should all do it that way. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. As far as riding off-road, I don't really care that the Transat will be better at it, probably, than the Suzuki, being slightly lighter weight and stuff, because this bike's never going to see hardcore off-road, some dirt roads, things like that, but I'm not going to be pushing it down to a single track or nothing, so I really don't care that the Honda's probably the better off-road option, even though it doesn't have adjustable suspension, just because it's got more power and lighter weight. So yeah, but let me know what you think in the comments, and like I said, it will be a quick minute before I'm looking to actually do that, which is just fine. I feel like with both of them being new models, it's kind of better to let them get out there and see which one may have some issues or some recalls or anything like that, instead of just buying the first one hot off the floor. But anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I hope you like joining along for the ride. Like I said, the Rebel is here to stay for a little longer. I haven't driven my truck in a week. I've just been riding this thing every day. Even though it's been 100 degrees every day, I've kind of just said, screw it, I'll put up with the heat in the evening riding home from work, and I'll just ride the Rebel. Swapped out the bars on it, mentioned that in another video, and makes it a lot more comfortable to ride for me, and yeah, just enjoying it. And unfortunately that means the Kawasaki Z125's got to go, but oh well, it is what it is, and I will catch y'all in the next